Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome back to part 3 of how to navigate uncertainty during a crisis. For the past 2 days, I've had a pretty long laundry list of housekeeping. I think by now you should probably know chat's going to be closed during the teaching. David will be taking Q&A at the end, so please make sure and write down your questions as he's teaching. But I don't want to waste any more time with my going on. Let's get right to it today. All right, part 3. Here we go. David?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning or good evening, depending on where in the world you are. Okay, we're going to begin to jam this thing forward here a little bit. I'm going to ask you to put your thinking caps on the way that we did when we were in the 4th grade today, because we're going to go through some things that really require you to seriously think, probably from a non-prejudicial perspective, about what some of the things are that you're actually dealing with, okay? So what do we have to learn? Well, let me share something with you from working with the law. Under the law of compensation, Hollywell says something that I think is very important. He says, in the study of the laws of truth, we learn to apply them so they will dissolve all of our adverse thoughts and conditions, okay? Now, while I am absolutely not perfect at this has still been the thing that I've used to guide me in my life. And for the most part, it has really served me very well. And the idea is this: when an obstacle comes up, when something comes up that looks like it's going to be a difficulty, when a crisis shows up, right, my mind is going to the place of what is the truth. I'll try to stay within the camera. I just recognize that. Sorry about that. I will stay in the place of what is the truth about this? What is the truth about this? So let's do an exercise today, okay? Here's what we have. Hang on. Okay. What are the rules of this crisis that you're in? What are the rules of this crisis that you're in? So first of all, I want you to write down this. Name the crisis that you're trying to navigate through. Name it. Name it, okay? And now I want you to take about 7 minutes and I want you to write down what are all the known obstacles that are being presented to you based on this crisis, okay? What's the name of the crisis? Let's, hang on a second. Name crisis and known obstacles. What are the known obstacles? You have 7 minutes. Begin. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some ideas of how I've handled this in my career, and then you're going to start working on yours. So things that have caused me to learn to think and pivot because of a crisis. I'm going to show you some of these things that I've had to come up against. So the very first thing was that I had a small list. Hang on. Small list of people to sell to. And there was no social media. No social media, lack of money. I started my business in October of 1999. And I began to sell my first seminar from the training that I was attending on how to actually put on a live event, okay? My first seminar had 25 people in it at $495 a person. Almost all of those were sold from my hotel room. About a month before, when I was learning how to put on a live event, all the different things that go with a live event. And about the smallest part of it was the actual information that I was teaching, right? It was, how do you negotiate with a hotel? What all the things are included? What do you have to know so that you don't get, taken advantage of? How do you set up the room? All the different ways to set up the room. How do you interact with the audience? Like, there was a lot to learn in a period of 3 days. And a part of those 3 days was also the information as to what I was teaching. So I had to figure out, how do I hit the ground running when I didn't have anything? And my strategy was, the moment that I agreed that I was going to do this and I understood what the parameters were, I was going to start selling, and I was not going to wait for anything to come my way. So the idea was, how did I work myself from the inside of my circle out? Who did I know and who did they know? And I started calling everybody until I got 25 people in that event. Now, that was not all that difficult, although it seemed pretty darn difficult at the time. However, what began to show up after that was a myriad of different people that I was meeting, and how do I increase the number of sales? So I'm going through this all the way through 2000, and then guess what ends up happening to me? 9/11 shows up, and when 9/11 shows up, I was under a situation where most people really didn't want to travel for a while, if you remember that. Like, we weren't sure what was happening, we weren't sure how safe it was, yada, yada. So from that standpoint, I know I had already done this to some degree, but I really kicked it into full gear during this time as I began to leverage technology. So I started doing telephone seminars. Instead of going out, having everybody travel, dealing with all the BS that was going on at the time, I was like, what is the biggest obstacle that we're facing right now in the sales? What's the biggest obstacle we're facing right now as far as cost? And the biggest obstacle was traveling. That's what it was. So it was like, how can I do this without traveling? At the time, it was like, well, you can't do this without traveling. It's seminars. You have to get hotel rooms, and this is how it's traditionally done. So I started doing it on the phone. And it was a phenomenal hit because most people had never done that before. I would ship them the materials. I would charge them the same price. We would do it on the phone. There was relatively no overhead. And I put thousands of people in, teaching people in a seminar format over the phone for a long period of time. And actually, we do it today. It's just the way that we do it today is we do it with Zoom, So for me, it's like a natural crossover to do this. My favorite way is still to do it live, but when anything shows up where you're finding out that the biggest challenge, because the worst thing you want to have to do is to fight yourself in your own business. So you're asking yourself different questions, right? So what questions can you ask about the different things that are showing up in the crisis that you have right now, right? So here's the first one. What is the truth? What is the truth? Now, one of the reasons why we ask this question is because very often when a crisis comes up, in some way or another, it does affect us personally, right? It may affect our belief system. It may affect our health. It may affect our loved ones. It has some kind of implication on our business. What is the truth, though? What is the truth? Because here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to take a situation and I don't want to blow it out of proportion in a way where I'm literally making up stories about what's going on, and I become a defeatist in my own agenda, right? I do not want to do this. I do not want to sabotage myself because my own thinking has become so stifled and warped within what's going on that I can't get out of my own way. So I ask myself, what is the truth? Now, when I ask myself what is the truth, I'm going to basically see what is the biggest problem that I'm facing. What is the problem that I'm facing? Now, I start thinking to myself, okay, and as we talked about this yesterday and the day before, right? What is your outcome? What is your outcome? Now, I want to know, how do I get around this problem? How do I go through this problem? How do I go over this problem? How can I ignore this problem? What do I have to do with this problem in order for me to reach my outcome? What do I have to do to get to that place where I'm actually hitting my outcome? And I may have to be flexible. I may have to learn. I may have to phone around and ask questions. When we went all down the COVID rabbit hole and we figured out we were going to have to do something else, one thing that we knew that we did was that we were really good at doing seminars on the phone, but we also knew that we had new technology that we didn't have then. We had Zoom. And Steph and I have a lot of friends in this industry that are very forward-thinking people. And we started calling friends in the industry. And my son's in this industry. And we started talking about what are all the things that can be done right now. And there were people that already had been thinking about it. You know, building a sound stage, having multiple Zoom lines come in. The people that we know that literally started doing this were the ones that actually broke it open throughout the industry as far as this. And then eventually we came and we built our own studio to do it. So the idea was, I'm not going to stop because there's this issue. A matter of fact, not only am I not going to stop, but while everybody else is trying to figure out what the hell is going on with traveling, should I travel, should I not travel, should I get the vaccine, should I not get the vaccine, am I going to be allowed in hotel rooms, is it dangerous, is it not dangerous? Like, there's so many what ifs out there. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to do it this way until a path forward becomes clear that is not going to jeopardize me, and it's not going to jeopardize my team, and it's not going to jeopardize any of you folks. I can't wait till things get back to some kind of pseudo-normal that we're used to, right? But I'm also not going to stop moving ahead because there's issues because of it, right? So you have to start thinking to yourself, I am not, so let's put it like this. If you're not coming from the attitude where you're thinking to yourself, I'm not failing. Like, I could give a flying fuck what's happening out in the world. I am going to continue to move forward with what I'm doing. I am absolutely not going to fail. That needs to be number one. Why does that need to be number one? Because anything that's going on out there, especially if it's unfamiliar, especially if you take it personally, especially if it scares you, especially if it hurts because maybe you've lost somebody because of it. Maybe you've been real sick because of it. Maybe there's some real pain and fear associated personally in your life due to this. You have the potential to start rationalizing what you think, and you start get to the place where, like, I don't even know if this is even worth it anymore. Like, do I even really want to do this? Do I want to keep doing this? Is this even worth this? This is your life. It was worth it before this happened. Why would you let something like this or any other crisis kind of put a wrench in this for you? So let me show you something else that I did that was very interesting. In 2004, in my infinite wisdom, I signed a contract that cost me $5 million over the course of a year along with my business partners, because I didn't want to pay an attorney to read it. Why? Because I really wanted to be in business with the people that I was in business with. And there was a loophole in this contract. If for any reason I quit, they quit, the business went defunct, for whatever reason, they owned the mailing list. Part of the contract was that we all combined our mailing lists at the beginning. We were going to use the power of multiple people's mailing lists in order for all of us to benefit from it, and it never dawned on me that they put some clause in there that said that they then own the mailing list from that point going forward. Had I understood what I was reading, I could have either chose not to do it, which I would have chosen not to do if they had not actually changed that loophole. So, when one person in that company decided they were going to take that money and left the rest of us without anything, there was a problem that we had. And the problem put me in a situation where I had nobody, I was not legally allowed to contact anybody on that list that I had from a business perspective. From a business perspective. So here's the issue. I even had friends and family in that list. According to the list, according to the law that covered it, I couldn't even contact, like, say, an uncle and approach him with the idea of doing business, right? So I had to think about this. What is the truth? Now, the truth is, number one, this contract was legally bindable. Number two, I had an attorney tell me that it was useless to go after these people because the person that took the money had already spent it. And even though all the rest of us would get a court ruling that said that we won, the money was gone. We'd probably never see the money again. And if we, or I shouldn't say we, let me just remove we. If I attempted to contact anybody to do business that was on that list, I could be sued for the entirety of the business that I had done. Okay? Now, the wording was very specific. It said I was not allowed to contact anybody within the list for the reason of doing business. Something like that. It was very specific. It was so specific that I even asked my attorney. I said, well, let me ask you a question. Can I contact people on this list for other reasons besides doing business? Could I do business with these people if they contacted me for business? And the answer was yes and yes. I could just not contact them to do business. So marketing was out, sales was out, any way to contact them, newsletters, all that stuff was out. So I started thinking, okay, number one, what do I need? What is my outcome? The first thing that I needed was I needed to do a seminar for about 300 people, and I needed to do it for about $1,200 a person. I needed a real boost. And with those individuals, I also needed to be able to sell coaching and product and all that stuff. That would have given me a boost so that I could get back on my feet, give me a little bit of breathing room, and continue to move forward. Once I had these individuals in my database now from a different way, if they had done business with me, it was okay. I just couldn't be the first one to reach out for business. So I thought, all right, there has to be a way around this. There has to be a way through this. There was a couple that lived in Florida that worked for a network marketing company that I had helped tremendously over the years. Specifically, the wife of this couple, and they were making astronomical amounts of money every month, and it was due to the help that I gave them to break through to different levels. Anyway, long story short, in the meantime, I became very good friends with them, right? Literally where I would go to stay at their house for a while, and we would do things, and we would talk about things, and we would create things. Like, we became pretty good friends. So what I did was I approached them as a friend. And I just kept talking to them until they realized something was very, very wrong. And then when they found out something was wrong, they asked me, and I told them what was wrong. And they said to me, well, what is it that you need? And I said, well, here's what I need. They wanted to know what my outcome was. I said, Bob, I need to do a seminar for 300 people, $1,200 a piece. He said, you know something that's really interesting? I was just thinking about doing a seminar for 300 people at $1,200 a piece. He said, I was wondering if you would come and speak and lead that event for me. He said, I will hire you and I will pay you the entire amount to do that if you'd be willing to do it. And I was like, I would be so very grateful if you would actually do that. So he started it, he promoted it, he sold it, every nickel went into my bank account, and we signed a contract basically saying that I was brought in to do this on request of him and that it was his event. But then once the event was done, everybody that was in the event was then being turned over to me. It was totally legal, ran it past the attorney and everything. It's like they can't do a damn thing about this, not a damn thing. They have to be able to prove intent that you were the one that went out and did it. They couldn't do that. And they never even tried, actually. I think because they were so floored by the idea that nobody was really going after them for the $5 million because they had spent it, that they had kind of left the whole thing alone. But what it did was it allowed me to get back on my feet. And it allowed me to do something that I had already become very good at. Thank goodness that these were all network marketers. Now, why am I saying that? Because in network marketing, you're talking about a hierarchy of individuals. You could literally start at the top, the people that are all the way at the top, and you could work with them to help them do something, and then they would sell their entire downline into the event that you were doing, if you knew what you were doing and if you were good. And I had a great reputation with this company. And that's how I started to rebuild the company. I started it from that perspective. It started with the person that put those 300 in, and then I started working those 300 people because they were already mine. And anybody that came through them was fair game. And within a year, I was probably about 95% back to the size of my list before I had ended it. But it was about, how do I think through? What can I do? What's possible, right? How can I do things that I think that I can't do? And then here's the biggest piece of all, right? Because we can't ever forget this part. Who can we ask for help? Who can you ask for help? There are people out there that want to help you. There's a lot of people that want to help you. You just have to be determined to work through it no matter what it is. Okay? So, let's take a look at something else that Halliwell says here. If you want prosperity and success, but do not strive to change in any way, how can you expect things to be any different? Now think about what he's saying here. If you want prosperity and success, but do not strive to change things in any way, how can you expect things to be any different? A drunkard never becomes reformed until he decides to stop drinking. If some habit possesses or obsesses you, you are not the master of your life until you decide to change that habit. So he goes on and then he says, only when we, now write this part down. Only when we cease to recognize a condition do we cease to attract it. Write that down. Only when we cease to recognize a condition do we cease to attract it. The only way that we can cease to recognize things is to change our minds about them. To change our minds about them. All right, so what do you have in front of you here? Well, one of the things that we have in front of us right now is we have the crisis, right? We have the COVID crisis for many people. There might be other crises that you're experiencing because of that, or that actually have nothing to do with that, right? Every time you see this, maybe it's vaccines, maybe it's vaccine mandates, I don't care what it is. The moment that you stop seeing these crises as what you see them to be, which is all the things that you just wrote down, you cease to attract the possibility of it stopping you from moving forward. Okay? Let's think about how he says this again. This is one of the greatest things I ever came across. And I mean, like for me, I learned this many, many years ago. And when the first time I read it, I wanted to jump out of my seat. Only when we cease to recognize a condition do we cease to attract it. Right? So let's take 5 minutes, and I want you to write the first thing down here. What are all the conditions that are causing you problems right now that you're recognizing? Write them all down. 5 minutes. Begin. Okay, we're back. All right. So now it says the only way we cease to recognize things is to change our minds about them. To change our minds about them. Now, this does present a big of a challenge for people, and it used to present a huge challenge for me also. Where does this present a challenge? When you're stuck on the need to be right? Like you might be very right about the circumstances that you're facing. You might feel very right about your personal viewpoints about things. That's fine. But if those things that you have a need to be right get in the way of where you want to go, then you're letting the problem win. You're letting the crisis win. And you don't want to do that. You absolutely do not want to do that, right? So we wrote down the conditions that you see that are preventing you from moving forward. Now I'm going to share another thing with you that I think is pretty important. Under the law of compensation, in the book Working with the Law by Raymond Hollywell, that's the book that I'm in, he says, never make an assertion, no matter how real it seems to be to you, if you do not want to reproduce it in your life. Now think about this. Never make an assertion, no matter how real it seems to be to you, if you do not want to reproduce it or have it continued in your life. He then goes on to say this. Do not say money is scarce. The statement will send money away from you. Do not say times are hard. This will tighten your purse strings so tight that even God will not be able to slip in another coin. Do not say that you are not loved or not interested in other people's lives. Truly, you will lose their interest and their love. Okay? Now get this part here. The spiritual supply from which the visible comes is never depleted. The spiritual supply from which the visible comes is never depleted. Now I'm not done with this. I'm going to get back to it, but I want to show you something. You have spirit that is moving to and through you, that is coming through the universe. It has all the potential that there is in it. All the potential is in the spirit. All the potential is in the universe. You are not perfect. You're not. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to screw things up, but you have to own what you screw up so that you can shift your mind about what it is that you're seeing. Otherwise, you can only see the equivalent of the mistake, which will lead to the equivalent of the crisis. Why is this? Because it seems like when times get hard, we do one of two things. Either we move to the place where We can literally see the aspiration of our heart's glory, or it gets so dark that things begin to like cave in on us. They begin to cave in, and we can only see the darkness of our own fear. I just did an amazing interview that was really, it was really something that was very special to me. It was with Lori Woolover, who wrote the book on Anthony Bourdain's life. She was his assistant for 10 years, one of his best friends, and the book comes out next Tuesday. I just recorded it today with her. What a phenomenal woman, absolutely phenomenal. And she was basically explaining to me in this interview that something went wrong in this guy's life where he could not see out of the darkness. And he ended up committing suicide, right? He could not see out of the darkness of the thing that happened. And it was so dangerous that there were other people that recognized that he was in trouble and nobody could help him see outside of that darkness. This is how dangerous something like this is, right? Because the darkness can come for any one of us. We never know when it's going to come. All we know is that it clouds our vision to something that's not good. It does not allow us to see beyond into the good. Now, remember this though, right? Because if you need to find your way out of something that's dark, something that's hard, something that's difficult, Spirit is moving to and through you all the time, all the time. As it enters your consciousness, it is going to form the image of one of two things. Either your heart's desire, or it is going to follow the model of whatever it is that you're paying attention to outside of yourself, in your results, your circumstances, and your environment. And if you're in crisis out here, if you're in crisis, and all you're seeing is what's wrong because of this crisis, it pulls the information into your consciousness and bam, your mind matches it. Now, let's see where he goes with this. The spiritual supply from which the visible comes is never depleted. Now, remember what he said. Never make an assertion, no matter how real it seems to be to you, if you do not want it reproduced or continued in your life. The spiritual supply, it never runs out. It's with you all the time. It will yield according to your demand upon it. It will not be affected by your ignorant or blind talk or lack or loss. Only by your ignorant or blind talk or lack or loss. Only you are the one that's affected, and only you control the demonstration with your thought. In other words, how you think will determine here what makes manifest outside of this. So if you want to change something outside of here, if you start focusing on your desire, right? What do I want? Forget about what the circumstance is. The Spirit wants to show you how to get what you want regardless of the circumstance. That's what it does. That's what it does. You have to overcome the limits of your own thinking. Build an image of what you want. Create that result in your life. Create that win in your life. Let that idea, let Spirit bring to you the ways and the means to get out of the problem that you have. There has to be a way out. You can't forget this, ever. How do we know that there's a way out? Well, I talked to you about this a little bit yesterday, right? How do we know that there's a way out? Because we have something called the Law of Polarity. The Law of Polarity says there's an opposite to everything. Here is the crisis. Here is the way out. It has to be there. The damnedest thing about it is it's the opposite side of the same thing. Whatever it is that's showing up in your life that says you can't do something, the opposite side has to be there at the same time. He goes on. He says, the unfailing resource is willing to give It has no choice in the matter. If you continue to pour out your thoughts into this substance, it will prosper you. If you continue to pour out your thoughts in this substance, what's the substance? The substance is spirit. That's the substance. It is through all time and space. It has all the knowledge it ever was or ever will be 100% locked up in it. It is consistently moving to and through you. Human beings have to wake up to the realization that they have the ability to choose, and our ability to choose is our greatest power. It gives us the ability to stop choosing to think something negative and stop looking at what's wrong with something and start looking at what's right with it. Even when we can't see it, the more we focus on what's right, the more it absolutely has to be there. Turn the energy of your mind upon ideas of plenty, love, happiness, joy, health, and they in turn will appear. So let me write this down. They will appear, right? But you have to focus your mind on them in order to get them to appear, okay? Now, I'm going to show you one more thing, and then when you get off of here, after we do the Q&A, I want you to do a little exercise that will help move this forward from yourself. There's a process that you have to go through, that we call it a manifestation process, that will allow you to step by step take your mind through this in order to get the result that you're actually looking for. All right, let's see here. No, hang on. Bottom right, got it. Okay, so and is that good? The top right? Okay. All right. So this is called the levels of awareness. Now, the levels of awareness are basically, it's the process that we go through to manifest from a lower idea to a higher idea. If I have a problem and I'm focused on the results of that problem, here, I also have to understand that it's my current level of conscious awareness that is bringing me that result, okay? So now, what do I want? I write my outcome up here. That's my outcome / goal. And then I start to think, okay? The first thing is that I become aware of what I want. The problem is I don't know how to get from here to there. This is the interesting thing about the universe. It only shows you one step at a time based on the decisions that you make. So I become aware of where it is that I want to go, okay? I make a decision. That's what I'm going to do. The next thing that happens, okay, is that I become aware of the very next thing that is going to show up for me. I become aware of the very next thing that's going to show up for me. It is the next step in my growth. Now, I don't know what it is based on what you're going to do. If you go back to my first analogy, what I had to do is to find out what could I do legally to get around this nonsense with this contract, right? And then once I found out what I had to do, I had to find somebody that I could call that could actually help me without me actually saying, I need help, this is what I need you to do, right? I need to have some person that had enough insight to be able to kind of walk me through this, okay? So that's a step in growth. Asking for help, spending money, doing something different. These are all different stages of growth. So I become aware, then I make a decision to do whatever it is that the next step shows up. I change because of that decision, okay? And then as I change, I begin to adapt to whatever it is. I begin to adapt. That means I'm doing something completely different and I'm adapting to that thing. It's very important that I do not get rid of the idea of what the adaptation is. The adaptation is growing, it's getting used to it, it's learning whatever I have to learn, it's implementing whatever I have to implement. Because as I adapt to it, I will become aware of the very next stage, because that will cause me to grow, and then I can make a different choice at that point. It is a repeat of this process from the bottom all the way to the top. It doesn't have to take a long time. You just have to understand that the levels of growth are the same always. It's aware, change, adapt, grow. Aware, change, adapt, grow. Right? You have to make the decision that you're going to do something in order that you can get to the other side of it. So here's the puzzles, if you will. You have a crisis that is in front of you right now. It is presenting problems for you right now. You cannot focus on the problems any longer. You have got to be able to look at, where am I going to go, and what is Spirit going to bring to you as the way to get there, right? So the moment that you start thinking of that, you have to start writing down, what are the possibilities that Spirit's bringing to me right now that I can go from this place to the next place, right? So that I can literally become aware of what it is that's in my mind, so that I can change, adapt, grow with each and everything. And of course, you have questions on this, you can ask me these questions in a couple of minutes. But this is the process all the time. It never changes. It doesn't change for anybody. It's relatively simple. The difficult part is you have to be willing to get into the decision to do it. And you have to understand what your current level of awareness is right here. What is your current level of awareness? Is it the problem? Is it what you can't do? Is it a financial instability? What is your current level of awareness versus where do you want to go on the outcome side of this right here? Okay? And that's where we're going to leave. That's where we're going to leave off for today, and then we're going to take the next and final step tomorrow. So as soon as we get done with the Q&A, begin this process right away. Thank you very much.
Okay, we are switching to Q&A. If you have a question for David, go ahead and type your name in the chat as it's shown on your screen. Just a reminder, please ask your question first, and then David will ask for any clarifying background information that he might need, just to make sure that we're using our time as efficiently as possible. Also, for the replays, just a little reminder, you will get an email tomorrow morning with a link to the replay, or you can go right to David's YouTube channel, subscribe, and find the replays right there on YouTube. And, of course, also extending you the invitation to keep this going by joining us October 13th through 15th at the Art of Success Virtual Summit. It's from 10 to 5 p.m. each day. David's taking you through a process. First day is mastering your own psychology. Second day is mastering the laws. And third day is mastering your success, which means creating a plan for moving forward. If you'd like to join us, my team's popping a link somewhere on the screen or in the chat for you to join us. You have until Friday at midnight Eastern before the pricing doubles. Right now, it's only $247, and you can bring a friend. Actually, you can bring multiple friends if you want for only $147. Okay, let's get going on questions. If you have a question, pop your name in the chat. First question is coming from Laura Lee Kenny. Laura Lee, can you unmute, please?
Hello.
Hi. Hi, David. Oh, sorry. I'm on a cell phone, as you probably can tell here.
That's fine.
And part of that was part of a little bit of the challenge, I think. I live out in the country and my internet isn't as stable as I'd like it to. When you told us to do the exercise about writing down our crisis and what are the rules, what are the names, and what are the obstacles, for some reason, a brick wall came up. I could think of things that I didn't do that I had procrastinated on.
Okay.
But then I thought, that's not quite what he means by that. Can you just clarify that a little bit more for me?
Well, what is the crisis that you perceive that you're in?
Not getting certain paperwork done that I want done and needs to be done.
Okay. How is that a crisis?
It's costing me money by not getting it done.
Okay. And what are the reasons why it's not done yet?
I just haven't done it. If I knew the answer to it, I know the answer. They tell us we always know the answer.
Well, what is the reason you haven't done it?
Part of it is I feel overwhelmed at the task about it.
Okay. So overwhelm's number one. What other reasons haven't you done it?
I probably don't know how to do some of it.
Okay. That's number two. What else?
I don't know if there's any more.
Okay. So there probably is, but those are two big ones, right? So what is the first, what can you do to overcome your overwhelm, and what can you do to find out how to do what you don't know how to do?
Well, I've asked some people and I haven't gotten the answers or the help or assistance that I've asked for.
So you're asking the wrong people.
Apparently.
Yes. Who can you ask that will be able to help you?
I don't know how to give you an answer for that as of yet.
Okay. So
or give myself the answer.
Do you know who has the answer to what you're doing?
I think the insurance company is making it so complicated that we don't do it to get the money back. I had a flood in my basement. Someone else caused it. And they want me to so detail stuff. I can't remember when I bought things, what the price was. Some of the stuff was bought a long time ago, but I have cost replacement, and they're asking for such detailed information. I had said to them, I said, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how to get it done in a timely manner for them.
Okay. So I don't want to give you advice because I don't know if that advice is even true. Who could you find out from how to handle this problem?
I see somebody.
Does anybody in the chat know who she could contact to find out how to get help with this issue? Does anybody else know? So there's two insurance adjuster, insurance commissioner. Have you contacted either of those two people?
That's who I'm dealing with, is an insurance adjuster, an insurance adjuster right now for the insurance company. They are the ones telling me I need to do this, but I don't know but an independent one. And I think that's what they meant.
So somebody says you need your own. I think you need to investigate that. I think you need to look on the internet for some kind of a claims adjuster and see what you can find. You need to start doing some more homework.
Okay. Thank you for the guidance and
You're
suggestions, people.
Very good.
Okay, next question's coming from Liana.
Hi again. And it's so weird, David, because one of the things that we spoke about earlier was like, what do I want to do? Just what was presented just a minute ago, and I hear other people stating what their problems are. Like, once again, it's so easy. I mean, I don't know, not easy. I don't want to say easy, but it's a lot. I guess for me, I can see and I can almost know how to resolve other people's issues, except for my own. Does that make sense? So, one of the things that you said was, ask for help without having to ask somebody to do that, that particular item for you. How can you suggest me doing that, for example, in the program that I have currently right now with my other coach?
Where do you need help?
Actually, sales, and I just don't know how to, yeah.
What specifically? Be more specific.
So, maybe knowing who to contact, for example. I've already contacted several clinics or several businesses about this, but I'm not sure if I should just contact somebody like higher up or individuals.
What answer are you looking for?
Like how to help me. I don't know. What do you mean? What am I looking for? What answer? It froze. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I can't hear anything.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me now?
There. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're looking for information about sales. What answer are you specifically looking for?
I guess how to not get caught up in the story because of my own story around the situation that's going on around this crisis currently with the vaccine and all that stuff. How do I separate myself from it?
So you separate yourself by looking, what is specifically the outcome that you want?
Sales, or at least being able to communicate another option for these people that are probably going through the same experience as I was beforehand.
And what would the option be?
To sign up for a protocol program that could offer them the ability to know that they're going to be well and healthy, and to be able to work and comply with currently the mandates.
Okay. So the idea is, what would be the forum in which you can talk about that so people could know about what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You have to get that message out there, yes?
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. I'm sure there's a lot of different forums out there where people would love to have your information.
I guess what I'm struggling with is I'm actually part of a union right now that we're going through this process that I can't really get into that without it becoming like political correct or not correct into my own like Facebook stuff and everything. I mean, would it be okay to post it maybe in our group, or would it be another? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to do.
No, it's not appropriate for our group, but
No, it's not. Okay.
But where would it be?
Okay, that's what I guess that's what I'll have to think about.
Right. So maybe everybody could help. Maybe everybody on here could help you with that. Where would it be appropriate for her to post, to talk, to have conversation with other people? Let's see what everybody comes up with.
Okay.
Okay. Well, while we do that, I'm going to move on to the next question and keep things rolling. Okay.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Next question is coming from. You're welcome. Next question is coming from Lalita Ross.
Hi. Thanks, David. My question, forgive me if it's not fully formed, but I'm just recognizing that I have this kind of block around feeling like there's what I want, and this sort of fear that what I want doesn't align with what Spirit or God wants. That what I want might not be the best thing for me, or it might not be serving in a way. It could be like sort of, there's that story of, is it self-absorbed, or is it in alignment with what actually I'm meant to be doing? And in a way, it's just another kind of cop-out, or or fear or making a mistake or being wrong. And I wondered, I was just thinking as you were talking, like, how would you reconcile that?
The only way to reconcile it is to find out if that's true.
Mm.
As long as you keep running down a path of you don't know, then you don't know, right? There's not an independent want of spirit or God. You just have to find out, is it productive for all? Does it add to the life of all? Does it have a component to it that is not self-deprecating on your part?
Mm.
Which we are going to get in more to tomorrow in the application part.
So find out if it's true and question, is it productive for all? Does it have a component that doesn't have a self?
Yeah, does it help you and does it help others? So there's 4 questions, right, that I give to people all over the place. Is this something that you want to be, do, or have? Is being, doing, or having this going to take you closer to your goals? Is being, doing, or having this in harmony with God's laws or the laws of the universe, meaning the law of more life? And is being, doing, or having this going to violate the rights of others, which means taking away another person's choice? If you get 3 yeses and a no, then move forward, do it.
Is there a place I could find those questions written down? I guess it'll be in the recording.
It'll be in the recording.
Okay, thank you so much. That's
You're welcome.
helpful.
I think someone just posted them in chat.
They're now
for
in
you.
the chat.
Yeah. Next question's coming from Daniela Chase.
Hi, David, just a clarifying question for you, please. Earlier on the whiteboard, you wrote a string of characters beginning with CAR, which I noted was conscious awareness and results, then AD, then aware, decision, change, adapt, grow. What does the AD stand for?
Awareness and decision.
Okay, so it was repetitive. Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question's coming from Jamie Metz. Jamie, we need you to unmute if you haven't unmuted. See if I can unmute you too. Okay. Wonder if we're having some trouble with mute with Jamie. Okay, we're going to go on to the next question. This question's coming from Kathleen Graffunder.
Hello.
Hi.
So my question is, now that we have the list of or we've named the crisis, we have the obstacles list. When I read them, I went, is this really a crisis? No.
Okay.
Are these really obstacles? No.
Okay.
And then I went, well, is it just me believing that these are obstacles that is stopping me from moving forward? And if that's the truth of it, because I look at these and I think that's not true, that's not an obstacle.
Perfect.
And then where have you seen in people that are in that situation where there's enough awareness to go, okay, this is not really an obstacle, but I don't, what's the best thing to move to that next step? To go, okay, this isn't an obstacle, so now what?
Yes. Okay, great question. So what's actually happening is, let's understand something very important. When a person, first of all, let me say this. Nobody really fails in life. What happens is they quit. And when they quit, there's a very unique thing that takes place, and it looks like this. Outside of themselves, they see a result or they see a circumstance. This result or circumstance is fed back into their conscious mind here, where it forms an image. And it is rubbing right up against their terror barrier in some way, right? Now, we don't always know why that is, but here's what we do know. What we do know is in order for a person to really be very excited about going after a goal, really trying to accomplish something, and then all of a sudden stopping, it's like, what the hell happened that caused a person to do that? They became hyper-focused on something that caused them to then rationalize in their mind the reason that they should actually stop. Now, that could be that they're putting something else more important in their life, or they don't want to take the risk, or they've been doing this too long. Whatever it is that you're doing in your mind to rationalize, which it sounds like one of the things that you're doing is creating a crisis in scenarios that don't actually exist, but you're creating them in your mind. And now you're finding out that they're not actually real. So why are you rationalizing ideas in your mind that are not real as obstacles to what you want to accomplish? Like in one general statement, number one, here's what we do know. It keeps you safe by doing that.
Yeah, that's certainly there. And the work that I've been doing around it over the last couple of months, especially, it's come up, fear, things going back to childhood, being afraid of being rejected, being afraid of people getting mad at me. As simple as that it sounds ridiculous to me, but it's
not
there.
Ridiculous.
It's just
not ridiculous. Yeah. So your mind is trying to find things that you can rationalize as reasons not to be rejected, not to have people mad at you. You have to recognize that you're creating stories that are complete bullshit. Right? So that's where we get back into, Raymond Hollywell. Never make an assertion, no matter how real it seems to be to you, if you do not want to reproduce it or continue it in your life. The spiritual supply from which the visible comes is never depleted. It never runs out. It's with you all the time. It will yield according to your demand upon it. Your subconscious mind is demanding that it tries to find a way to keep you safe. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You have to change that. You have to be like, I don't need to be safe. I can deal with myself. So now it's about, it is not affected by your ignorant or blind talk of lack or loss. Only you are the one affected, and you can control your manifestation with your thought. The unfailing resource is willing to give you, because it has no choice in the matter. If you continue to pour out your thoughts into this substance, it will prosper you. So you need to ask a different question, right? How do I accomplish this? So give me some questions that you need to change, what you need to change them to. Give me a couple of them. How do you need to ask questions differently?
Well, the first thing is just how do I take that next step?
Okay, so what is the next step? Do you know what it is?
Yeah, I know one of them.
What is it?
I've started a website. I need to post pictures on it.
Okay.
That's one.
Okay. Do you know how to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sort of, and I have people to ask for help.
Okay.
And that's another thing that stops me. I don't want to.
Okay.
So I guess
Why?
the next question then is, how do I just
You don't want to
do
because
that
you don't want
anyway?
to, because realize this. Asking people for help is a good thing. You don't want to because you don't want to be rejected.
Okay, that's fair. And I already have proof that I won't be. The help
Okay.
has been offered.
Then do it anyway.
Right.
Regardless of what your mind is telling you about the negative, it's not true. Do it anyway. And keep doing it till you make sure you have the right people or the right advice. Do it regardless. Do not let your mind talk you out of it by saying you don't want to do this. It doesn't make any sense to have something that you truly want to do, and then there's parts of it you go, I don't want to do that. Especially when you know that it's tied directly to the idea of being rejected or being wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
That's really helpful. Thank
Good.
you.
Cool. You're welcome.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody. Great questions. Fantastic training. We've got part 4 happening tomorrow, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. This week is flying by, and so are these trainings. Just as a reminder, join us at the Art of Success Summit, October 13th through 15th. You will not regret it. You'll be getting emails about it. And you'll also be getting the replay email of this tomorrow morning, or you can go to YouTube to access the replay, and I believe it'll actually be up by about 6:30 tonight. So if you want to watch any of the replays, they are there and waiting for you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll just say bye for now.